Ladies and gentlemen, they don't want you to know these 5 lines because once you start saying them every morning, your mind won't obey fear, stress or distraction anymore. And that changes everything. Think about the last time you woke up feeling completely in control. No anxiety, no rush, just pure focus. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because the mind, just like the body, needs training. And for centuries, there's been a way to do it. 5 simple lines, repeated every morning, that rewire how you think, how you react, and how you move through the world. Let's break them down. Problem: most people start their day on defense: phone notifications, rush decisions, distractions before you even get out of bed. The world's already pulling you in 10 directions. And when that happens, you're not living, you're just reacting. But there's another way. Instead of letting the chaos control you, you can anchor yourself with words that cut through the noise. Not motivation, not quotes, commands for your mind today. I choose discipline over convenience. Discipline is not a chain. It's not a punishment. It's not something you suffer through because someone told you to. Real discipline, the kind that changes lives, is freedom, absolute freedom. Because when you choose discipline, you're choosing to no longer be a slave to your impulses, your laziness, or the distractions that the world throws at you every single day. Think about the last time you hit snooze. Just 5 more minutes, right? Except those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20. And suddenly you're rushing, stressed, scrambling to catch up before the day even starts. That's convenience. That's the easy choice. And every time you make it, you teach your brain one thing: effort is the enemy. Avoid it, run from it. But here's the truth. Every moment you running from effort is a moment you spend running from the life you say you want. The mind is like a muscle. It adapts to what you feed. It excuses, shortcuts, and instant gratification. And it grows weak. It starts to believe that discomfort is dangerous, that hard work is something to avoid. Feed it discipline. That's when everything changes. Discipline is the voice that says, get up now. Not because it's easy, but because you know the cost of staying. It's the decision to write that email instead of scrolling, to have that difficult conversation instead of pretending. It doesn't matter to train when you're tired because you know stagnation is worse than sweat. There's an old story about a student who complained to his teacher, "Why must everything be so hard? Why can't the path be easier?" And the teacher handed him a cup of tea, weak, barely steeped, flavorless. Then he handed him another strong reach full of depth. "The first cup," he said, "is what you get when you rush. The second, that's what patience and effort create. Discipline is that second cup. It's the understanding that every time choose what's right over what's easy. You're not losing, you're investing in a version of yourself who doesn't panic when things get hard, who doesn't crumble under pressure, who doesn't need external motivation because the fire comes from within." So when you say, "Today I choose discipline over convenience," you're not just reciting words, you're making a promise that today you won't let comfort dictate your actions, that today you'll do the work even when no one's watching, that today you'll remind yourself the life you want isn't found in short. It's built through the daily deliberate choice to put through the daily deliberate choice. Show up fully, fiercely, without negotiation, because discipline isn't the enemy of joy. It's the foundation of it. The athlete who trains when no one's cheering. That's where real strength comes from. The writer who writes even when inspiration is gone. That's how masterpieces are made. The person who's calm in chaos. That's not luck. That's training. And it starts here with this line, with this choice today. Obstacles are the path. The moment you realize this truth, everything changes, not just in how see challenges, but in how you move through life itself. Most people spend their days fighting against what comes their way, resisting, complaining, wishing things were different. But what if I told you that very resistance is what's holding you back? That the obstacle you're trying to avoid is actually the doorway to your growth? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you faced something difficult and thought, "Why me?" Be honest. We've all been there, stuck in traffic, when we're already late, dealing with that impossible person at work, watching carefully laid plans fall apart. Our first instinct is always to push back, to wish it wasn't happening. But here's the secret. The masters have known for centuries that reaction is the real problem, not the obstacle itself. Think about how we train the body. Do muscles grow by avoiding weights? Does endurance build by never running that extra mile? Of course not. The growth comes precisely from what challenges us. The mind works exactly the same way. Every obstacle you face is like a personal trainer for your character. It's there to make you stronger, wiser, more resilient, but only if you let it. There's a powerful story about a young student who came to his teacher frustrated the training is too hard. He complained, the forms are too complex, the discipline too strict. Why can't it be easier? The teacher nodded silently, then took the student to a nearby stream. He picked up a leaf and placed it in the water, watching it float away. Then he picked up a stone and dropped it in it, sank immediately. The leaf goes where the current takes it. The teacher said, the stone changes the current around it. Which do you want to be? This is the choice we all face when obstacles come. Will we be the leaf pushed around by every difficulty, or will we be the solid unmoved, changing the very nature of what comes against us? Let's take something simple like traffic. Two people can be in the exact same jam. One spends the whole time fuming, honking, stressing, arriving at their destination exhausted and angry. The other accepts it, uses the time to listen. Something meaningful. Maybe even enjoys a rare moment of stillness, same situation, completely different experience. Why? Because one saw the obstacle as an enemy, the other as part of the journey. This applies to everything. That difficult person in your life. They're not there to make you miserable. There to teach you patience, to show you where your boundaries need to be stronger. The project that failed, not proof you're not good enough, but a lesson in what needs improvement. The unexpected change of plans, an opportunity to practice flexibility. Most of us want the rewards without the resistance. We want strong relationships without difficult conversation success, without setbacks wisdom, without going through tough experiences. But life doesn't work that way. The obstacle isn't blocking your path, it is the path. It's the very thing that's going to shape you into someone who can handle what comes next. Think about the last truly meaningful accomplishment in your life. Was it easy? Probably not. The things we value most usually come through overcoming something difficult. That's not coincidence. That's how growth works. The struggle isn't just part of the process. How we approach everything suddenly. The rude customer isn't just annoying. They're helping you practice emotional control. The delayed flight isn't just frustrating. It's a chance to practice patience. The financial setback isn't just scary. It's teaching you resourcefulness. There's a reason why in all the ancient traditions, the heroes must face trials. It's never an easy path because the trials aren't just tests, they're transformations. Each one changes the person facing them, preparing them for what comes next. Your life is no different, so the next time you face an obstacle, big or small, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, ask, what is this here to teach me? That simple shift changes everything. Frustration becomes fuel, the problem becomes the practice. The obstacle becomes the opportunity, because here's the truth. No one tells you smooth seas don't make skilled sailors. The challenges you face aren't taking you away from your path. They're preparing you for it. Every single one. The moment stop resisting them is the moment you start growing through. This isn't about pretending difficulties don't hurt or matter. It's about recognizing they serve a purpose. That person who wronged you, they taught you about forgiveness. That failure, it showed you where you needed to grow. That disappointment, it clarified what truly matters to you. The masters don't avoid obstacles. They embrace them, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand. This is how we are meant to grow. This is how ordinary people become extraordinary, not by having an easy life, but by how they meet a difficult one. Tomorrow when something doesn't go your way and something won't, remember this isn't an interruption of your path. This is the path, and how you meet it will determine not just what happens next, but who you become in the process. Because in the end, the obstacle is never just the obstacle. Invitation to become more than you were yesterday. The question is, will you accept that invitation? My peace is not for sale. Every day in 1,000 small ways, we auction off our peace to the highest bidder. We hand it over to strangers on the internet who push our buttons. We sacrifice it to situations we can't control. We trade it for the approval of people whose opinions shouldn't matter. And the crazy part, we do this willingly, unconsciously, like it's normal, like inner peace is some cheap currency. We're supposed to spend freely, but here's the truth. They never taught you your peace is the valuable thing you own, more valuable than money status, than being right. And once you realize that Everything changes. Think about the last time you lost your cool. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Maybe you read a comment online that set you off. Maybe you stressed all night about something that never even happened in that moment. What did it cost you? Your breath became shallow. Your muscles tightened, your mind raced you. Probably couldn't think straight for hours. All for what? For something that in the grand scheme of your life meant absolutely nothing. This is how we live now, renting out our peace to things that don't deserve it. We've been conditioned to react, to engage, to take everything personally. But there's another way away where no one and nothing gets to decide how you feel unless you allow it. There's an old teaching about two monks walking by a river. Woman struggling to cross, so one monk carries her to the other side. Hours later, the second monk is still fuming. How could you carry her? We're not supposed to touch women. The first monk just smiles and says, I put her down hours ago, you're still carrying her. This is what we do. We pick up anger, stress, worry, and then we carry it for hours, days, sometimes years. We treat our peace like it's public property, letting anyone and anything come take a piece. But what if you decided right now that your peace isn't for sale? Not to rude comment, not to bad driver, not to the 24-hour news cycle, not even to the people closest to you. Because here's the secret. Nothing has the power to disturb your peace unless you give it that power. That coworker who gets under your skin, they only bother you because you let them. That family member who knows how to push your buttons, they only have that power because you handed it to them. The moment you stop renting out your peace, you take back control of your life. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending things don't bother you. It's about recognizing what's worth your energy and what isn't. Most of what upsets us falls into three categories: things that don't matter, things we can't change, things that won't matter in a week. Why would you sell your peace for any of them? About how much time you've wasted arguing with people you'll never meet online. Think about the nights you've lost to worry about problems that never even happened. Think about all the times you've sacrificed your calm just to prove a point that didn't need proving. What did any of that get you? More stress, more frustration, more regret. Now imagine living differently. Imagine waking up and deciding today, my peace isn't negotiable, not because everything will go perfectly, it won't, but because you've realized something fundamental. Your reaction is always your choice. The driver who cut you off can choose anger, or you can choose to let it go. The insult held your way. You can choose to catch it or let it fall. The problem you can't solve right now, you can choose to obsess, or you can choose to focus on what you can control. This is the real work, not controlling the world around you. That's impossible, but mastering the world within you. Because when you stop selling your peace to every passing disturbance, you discover something amazing. Most of what you thought you needed to react to you don't. Most of what you thought required your anger, it doesn't. Most of what you believe deserves. Worry never did. There's a reason the most powerful people in any room are often the calmest. They are not unaffected. They've just decided what's worth affecting them. They guard their peace like a treasure because they know without it, nothing else matters. With it, anything is possible. So the next, you feel your peace slipping when the anger rises, when the stress builds, when the worry creeps in. Ask yourself one question: is this worth the price? Is this person, this situation, this problem worth what I'm about to pay? My breath, my focus, my precious energy. 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. And in that moment, you'll have a choice to sell your peace yet again, or to finally fiercely declare, not today, my peace is not for sale. Because when you stop giving, it stop to realize peace was never something you needed to find. It was always something you needed to stop losing. And that changes everything. I own my attention. It doesn't own me. The modern world runs on stolen attention. Every ping, every notification, every flashy headline is designed to do one thing: take what little focus you have left. We live in an age where concentration has become a rare currency, and most of us are bankrupt without even realizing it. Think about it. When was the last time you sat through an entire meal without checking your phone? When was the last time you worked on one task, just one, without your mind wandering elsewhere? This isn't just distraction, this is surrender. Every time you let your attention be hijacked, you're handing over the reins of your life to something or someone else. You're saying, here, you decide what I think about, you decide where my energy goes, and the cost is higher than you realize. Because attention isn't just about focus, it's about power. The power to choose, the power to create, the power to be present in your own life. There's an old teaching about a student who complained to his teacher, "My mind is always scattered. I can't focus on anything." The teacher handed him a cup filled to the brim with water and said, "Walk across the room without spilling a drop." The student, carefully holding the cup, made it to the other side. "Where was your mind just now?" the teacher asked. "Only on the cup." The student replied. "Exactly," said the teacher. "Your mind goes where you tell it to go. We've been tricked into believing that distraction is normal, that a wandering mind is just part of life. But that's a lie. The truth, you train your attention every single day, whether you mean to or not. Every time you pick up your phone mid-conversation, training your mind to value interruption over connection. Every time you switch tasks because something feels hard. Teaching your brain that focus is optional. And every time you let a notification pull you away, you're reinforcing that attention belongs to anyone who demands it. But here's the good news, that training can be undone. Saying, "I own my attention," is more than a mantra. It's a declaration of war against the forces trying to own you. It means looking at your phone and deciding when you're engaged, not reacting every time it buzzes. It means sitting down to work and refusing to let your mind drift to a dozen other things. It means listening, really listening when someone speaks to you instead of already formulating your response. This isn't about willpower, it's about awareness. Most of us live on autopilot, letting our attention be pulled in whatever direction the world tugs it. But the moment you wake up, the moment you realize you are the one who decides where your focus goes, everything changes. Think about the last time you were truly in the zone. Maybe it was while working on a project you loved. Maybe it was during a deep conversation. Maybe it was just sitting quietly watching the sunset. In those moments, nothing else existed. Time faded, distractions disappear. That's what happens when you own your attention. You tap into a state of clarity and purpose that most people rarely experience. Now think about it. You usually spend your day scrolling, switching tabs, half listening while planning what to say next. We've convinced ourselves this is productivity. It's not. It's the illusion of activity, a cheap substitute for real meaningful work. The masters of old didn't have smartphones or social media, but they understood this truth better than we do. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If your focus is constantly fractured, so will be your results. If your mind is always elsewhere, so will be your happiness. So how do you take back control? Start small. The next time you're about to reach for your phone, out of habit, pause. Ask yourself, is this what I want to give my attention to? The next time you're working and feel the urge to check email or social media, stop. Remind yourself, I decide where my focus goes. The next time you're in conversation and your mind starts to wander, reel it back. Be here now. This isn't easy, you'll fail often, but each time you catch yourself and refocus, you're rewiring your brain, you're reclaiming what's yours. Because here's the secret, no one tells you attention is the foundation of everything. Want better relationships? Give people your full attention. Want to do great work? Stop multitasking. Want peace of mind? Stop scattering your focus across 100 unimportant things. The world will never stop trying to take your attention, but from this moment on you get to decide, will you let it, or will you finally declare and mean it? I own my attention, it doesn't own me. Choice is yours, but choose wisely, because how you spend your attention is how you spend your life. Action first, clarity follows. We've been lied to about how change works. Somewhere along the way, we absorb this idea that we need to feel ready before we begin, that motivation is some magical force that strikes like lightning, and until it does, we're powerless. So we wait, prepare, we plan. We tell ourselves, once I feel inspired, then I'll start. But here's the truth, no one tells you. You will never feel ready, not truly, not in the way you're waiting for. There's an old story about a student who spent years studying philosophy, collecting books, listening to lectures, always preparing to really begin his practice. One day, his teacher handed him a single grain of rice and said, "Carry this with you everywhere. When it sprouts, you'll be ready." The student, confused but obedient, kept the grain in his pocket. Weeks passed, nothing happened. Finally, he returned to his teacher. "It's been months, the rice hasn't changed." The teacher nodded. "Exactly, just like knowledge. It only grows when planted in action." This is what we forget. Clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. The runner doesn't wait to feel energized before lacing up his shoes. He laces up, and then the energy comes. The writer doesn't wait for inspiration to strike before sitting down to write. She starts writing, and then the ideas flow. Motion creates emotion. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Think about the last time you procrastinated on something important. What were you really waiting for? Some perfect moment when all fear would disappear. Some guarantee of success. That moment doesn't exist. The fear never fully goes away. The doubt never completely vanishes. The only difference between those who move forward and those who stay stuck is this: one group learn to act despite the uncertainty. We misunderstand how the mind works. We think it's like a car that we need the engine of motivation to turn on before we can move, but really it's like a bicycle. It only balances when in motion. Stand still and you wobble, start pedaling, and suddenly everything's steady. This explains why preparation can become its own form of procrastination. Research, more planning, more getting ready, it feels productive. But it's often just fear in disguise. Fear of beginning, fear of failing, fear of realizing we might not be as good as we hoped. But here's the secret: you don't need confidence to start. You gain confidence by starting. There's a reason why in all ancient training traditions, students aren't first given lengthy explanations. They're told, do this form 100 times. Then we'll talk, not because understanding isn't important, but because some truths can only be grasped through action. You can't think your way into knowing how to swim. At some point, you must jump in the water. This applies to everything worth doing in life. Want to become more disciplined? Don't wait to feel disciplined. Act. Discipline first, and the feeling follows. Want to be more courageous? Don't wait for fear to disappear. Act despite it, and courage grows. Want clarity on your path? Stop looking for it, and thoughts start moving, and the path reveals itself step by step. Most people live in the illusion that they need permission from their feelings, from circumstances, from some future version of themselves who has it all figured out, but that version doesn't exist yet, and it never will, not until you begin. So how do you break the cycle? Starts before you're ready, not recklessly, but deliberately. Set the timer for 5 minutes and begin that project you've been putting off. Put on your running shoes before you debate whether you feel like it. Send that email before you overthink it. The magic isn't in the size of the action, but in the breaking of inertia. Once movement starts, momentum builds. This isn't about ignoring fear or pretending doubt doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that these feelings aren't stop signs, they're part of the process. The athlete still feels nerves before the game. The speaker still feels butterflies before stepping on stage. The difference, they've learned that the only way out is through that action transforms anxiety into energy. There's a reason why fake it till you make it contains truth, not because you are being dishonest with yourself, but because you are teaching your nervous system a new reality. This is who I am now. The body follows where the action lead. So the next time you catch yourself waiting to feel motivated, waiting for the perfect conditions, waiting for some sign that it's time, remember the grain of rice. Remember that clarity grows in the soil of action, not in the barren land of good intentions. Begin before you're ready. Act before you feel certain. Move first and watch as the mind, like a faithful companion, eventually catches up, because in the end, readiness doesn't precede action, it follows it. These aren't affirmations. They're not wishful thinking, they command. And when you repeat them daily, something shifts. Begging life to go easy on you, you start realizing you are never powerless. The mind obeys what you feed it. So feed it strength. 5 lines, 10 seconds each morning, that's all it takes to rebuild how you think. But here's the truth. It's not about saying them once, it's about making them your default. So write them down, put them where you see them, and for the next 30 days, watch what happens when your mind starts working for you, not against it. Watch as the mind, like a faithful companion, eventually catches up. You may think you need to feel ready before you take action, but here's the truth. Readiness doesn't precede action, it follows it. You move first, then your mind aligns. You leap, then courage arrives. This is one of the most liberating truths you will ever learn, because it means you no longer have to wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect plan before you begin. The words you speak to yourself matter. They are not empty affirmations or fragile wishful thinking, they are commands. A command is not a suggestion, it's an instruction your mind is built to follow. Every time you repeat something with conviction, your subconscious begins to believe it, your nervous system begins to respond to it, and your behavior begins to align with it. This isn't magic, it's wiring. And the brain is always wiring and rewiring itself based on what you feed it. When you repeat empowering thoughts daily, something starts to shift inside you. You stop begging life to go easy on you. You stop praying for fewer obstacles. You stop wishing for the world to change. Instead, you start to realize you are never powerless. You may not control every event, but you can always control how you meet it. You can choose strength over surrender, focus over fear, persistence over excuses. The mind obeys what you feed it, so feed it strength. Give it courage for breakfast, grit for lunch, and determination for dinner. This is not about reciting pretty words once and expecting miracles. It's about making those words your default mental operating system. It's about carving new neural pathways so deeply that when life squeezes you, strength comes out automatically. 5 lines, 10 seconds each morning. That's all it takes to start rewiring how you think. You could do it while brushing your teeth, while the coffee brews, or in the first moments before you check your phone. You might not feel anything dramatic at first, but don't be fooled. Change works like water watering down stone. Subtle at first, then unstoppable. Here's the truth most people miss. You don't rebuild your mind in one grand moment of inspiration. You do it in the quiet, consistent repetition of truth over and over until it replaces the lies you've lived by. You take ownership of your mental space, and slowly that ownership spills into every other part of your life. So write them down. Put them on your mirror, your desk, your phone's lock screen. Make them impossible to avoid. And for the next 30 days, commit no matter how you feel to feeding your mind the kind of strength that transforms you from the inside out. Because the day your mind starts working for you, not against you, is the day you stop surviving and start living.